It's going to be another great Pivot Me Live. Without further ado, so we've talked every morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time. We've been doing these Pivot Me Lives. And again, to give context for those who maybe are new here today, we traditionally do a standard podcast that is pushed out on all the channels and Spotify and Stitcher and every place that you would go to listen to podcasts. And that's just Pivot Me. However, what we found is during this time, information was changing for business owners so quickly that if we waited to push podcasts out through the standard channels, it was simply too long. It was less relevant. And more than anything, we want to elevate our business community and elevate those that are listening to this. And so we've decided to, pivot and move to the video platform and move to a live platform through Facebook that we then push back to our standard website. We'll put the links in the message. But what we're here to do, what we're doing every morning, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time, is talking to business leaders, talking to people that are running their businesses still. They're managing their teams. Some of them had office staff that are now remote, adjusting to that. Some are manufacturers that have to scale back their production capabilities, just people from a variety of different industries. And the intention here is to highlight the businesses that are moving ahead during this time, highlight some of the resources that they're using to get them ahead, and even highlight some of their struggles of, hey, we were an office staff and we weren't very techy, we weren't very digital, and we've had to adjust. And here's some of the things that we found has helped us. So that's the intention of Pivot Me Live. And let's jump into our guest today. So my guest today is Al Kline, the founder and owner of the Appraisal Group, also known as TAG, a real estate appraisal company that provides commercial and residential valuation services. We'll drop his website in the links as well. Located in Maple Grove, Minnesota. I guess it's a suburb of Minneapolis. He also holds the highest professional designation in the appraisal field, the MAI, also a master's degree in real estate appraisal from the University of St. Thomas. This is a guy that knows real estate. We're excited to have him on. Thank you, Al Kline.
April, you are something else. You are the best, to say the least. It's a great honor. It absolutely is. Thank you very much for inviting me on. This is really cool. Very cool.
That's great. Well, and Al, here's the thing. Like Al and I know each other really well. We were, Al was in one of my masterminds for a long time. We've gotten to know each other and know business fairly well. And I knew that you were still full steam ahead during this time. And I wanted you to come on to share some of the things that you're doing. And we'll kind of go through some questions, but share some of the things that you're doing to move you and your team ahead right now. So before we get into that, tell us about who you are and what you do, Al.
Sure. Again, my name's Al Kline, and I own a company called the Appraisal Group, and we do commercial and residential appraising. And I've been doing this for a long time. Oh my God, since like about 1980 in that area. And I've had my own company since right around 1995. So it's been about 25 years. And we do appraising for a number of different purposes, primarily lending, commercial lending and situations like that. But we also have a division dealing with residential appraising. So for people that are on this podcast and whatever, if you apply for a mortgage or a home mortgage, you're going to have an appraiser come out to your property. And that's what my company would do. They would come out and they would inspect the property and render an opinion of value on the property. And then the lender will then lend against that appraised value. And we do appraising for a number of different reasons, not only just the lending part of it. We have a division dealing with eminent domain, which is if the government comes in and takes part of your land or your property or whatever, we do it before and after analysis. And that's really a specialized type of a thing that we do. But we also do like property tax appeals. If you get a property bill in the mail that you're thinking, oh my God, this assessed value is way too high. And you'll come to a firm like mine and we'll do an independent appraisal, which you then will provide to the governing authority, and then a negotiated new value is arrived at, and then your property value and hopefully your taxes would be lowered also. And we do it for buyers and sellers too, just rendering it independent
Yeah.
opinion of market value.
Al, I've got to be honest here. I've been a real estate investor since I was 19. I didn't know
Okay.
you could do that. I didn't know that
We can do it.
you could push
We can
back on
do it.
the assessed value. I had no idea.
Oh,
Wow.
absolutely. It's a big thing. And as a matter of fact, an associate that works for my firm, Dan Boris, is absolutely the best. And he's done casinos from hotels to
Wow.
whatever, not just in Minnesota, but around the country.
Yeah.
And it's a specialty type thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're very well, branched out in a number of different areas.
Yeah.
And I was hoping that in any kind of situation that we'd run into, oh my God, we're taken care of, because we've got different things that we can do as part of appraising.
Yeah. Yeah. So Al, I loved, thank you for that. That was very clear. And obviously you just enlightened me, and no doubt many other listeners that are going, wait a second, I didn't know that I could dispute that. But so in that time, so you've been doing this for a long time, you've seen ups and downs in the market. And a lot of people are saying we're in an unprecedented time. And I would agree that the combination of circumstances are unprecedented, but uncertainty, a tumultuous market, those are not unprecedented. You've seen a lot in your time. Can you kind of speak to that? The real estate bubble, I mean, you've seen the ups and downs.
Sure. In the real estate industry, since 1980s, we've seen the ups and downs, beginning like in the early part of 1980, where the market just went totally south. And for those that can recognize current interest rates today, like the current interest rate, you get like a 4% rate or whatever. Back about 1980, 81, 82, the typical rate was right around 8%. And then the market went way south. Believe it or not, the rate went up to like 18%. So if you can imagine today, on a $100,000 mortgage, where you've got a 4% mortgage, a 4% interest rate on $100,000, you're paying about $450 per month. On an 8% interest rate, which was typical at that point in 1980, it would jump up to be like $750 per month as part of the payment, PI only.
Yeah.
But then when it jumped up to 18%, oh my God, a typical on a $100,000 mortgage, somebody was paying upwards of $1,500 per month. So, but the thing is, the market got better then. It went down. Then it came down to where it was around 8% and et cetera. Then around 9/11, there was another drop where for a brief period of time, people just got very concerned, and the markets got really crazy and everything like that, and they went down, but they came up in a relatively short period of time. If you can remember back in 2006, 2007, prior to 2008, oh my God, the market was on fire. And people were buying with little or no, background checking and stuff like that. Property values went way north, and all of a sudden it hit a bubble in about 2008, and everything fell apart.
Sure.
And property values came down dramatically. It took about a period of 3 to 5 years for it to normalize again. And right around 2014, it started getting better again. And around 2016, it started to see even a higher upward trend. And as evidenced over the past few years, oh my God, it's just been on fire again in many areas, both residential and commercial. And as a matter of fact, if you look back since 1970, studies have been done. If you're going to put $1,000 into an investment, your best investment would typically be real estate as compared to the stock market. And that has really held true up until about the last couple of years in the market. The stock market just went bonkers. But the point being is that I've experienced all these things, ups and downs, and the plateaus and the lowest that you can imagine. And it always gets better. It always gets better. And you just have to keep that kind of anticipation that you're going through a brief period where it's kind of down, but it will get better. I've seen it, the ups and downs, so many times over my career of 35 plus years.
Oh, Al, I think that's exactly what people need to hear right now. Thank you for perfectly articulating that sentiment of, hey, I've been doing this for a long time, and this is the benefit of having someone that is an expert in this industry, that's seen all the ups and downs is that what goes down must come up, and what goes up must come down. It's just, it's cyclical. It will get better. We're weathering a storm right now, but there's still a lot of opportunity here. And I've heard the comparison of the marketplace to the real estate bubble. And I was very familiar with it. I worked in finance at the time. So I worked at Wells Fargo and Chase Manhattan. And not only did I work as a lender in finance, we were also heavily leveraged in real estate. And one time I remember, we had a very wise CPA say, are you familiar with the eggs in one basket? Your income is in real estate. Your retirement's in real estate. Your portfolio's all in real estate. The guy was smart. I didn't listen to him. That was many years ago. If he's listening, he'll have a good chuckle right now. But when we know better, we do better. And I was, I don't know, young and stupid at the time. So I wasn't that young, but I was younger. So, but the point is that we have seen downturns in the market, and they come back up. It always gets better. And I love what you're saying. And just to highlight on the real estate piece, because I think it's really important. You were saying, hey, interest rates went from 4% all the way up to 18%. I just really want to clarify, guys. So that means the same house that you could be paying $450 a month with no larger purchase price, the same purchase price, you are then paying in upwards of $1,800 a month. So really keep that in mind, because I think we're a little bit spoiled at how cheap money is right now. We just think, I've spoken to many people in the marketplace that maybe haven't been in it as long as you or I have, and they think, oh, well, 4% is normal. 4% is amazing. Like, this is cheap money. And to your point about real estate being a great investment, I think it was John Way that always said buy land. That's one thing they're not making any more of. But historically, real estate has done well. But if you zoom in and you look at this little pinhole, you may see these ups and downs, and they feel huge and catastrophic. But if you pan out, you'll see that there is this constant upward motion that you can't get hung up on the little ups and downs. So Al, thanks for giving us some clarity on,
Sure.
You know, hey, this has happened in the past and it will get better. And,
Right.
and that doesn't, and it might still be a perfect time to buy. I know some people are like, well, let me wait and hold. And the thing is there are people that are going to move right now. And it's likely to serve them. I mean, move in that they're going to progress even at this time, that they're not waiting and seeing what's happened. They're going to take steps to progress even in these times. So
Well,
Al,
absolutely. No, I was just going to say that it's an unknown time period right now. We just don't know. As a matter of fact, in our industry, everybody's going, what do we do? Have property values, are they starting to go down, or are they leveling out, or what actually is happening? And nobody knows, because this is really an unknown period that we've gone through. So as a matter of fact, on the end, in the addendum to each report we put out, whether it's a commercial report or residential, we're identifying just that. We're in a very unknown period. We're not quite sure the impact it's going to have on property values. We're assuming, at least initially right now, that they are going to remain level and not go down or not go up more than likely, but just kind of weathering this period for how long it may take.
That's really good to know. I hadn't appreciated, thank you for that insight, Al, because I hadn't appreciated what a pickle you could be in, that people now more than ever are asking you to look into your crystal ball, right? Al, what's the market doing? You must have a lot of people asking that question.
Well, it's really difficult, but here's what we're seeing in my industry. Again, we do both commercial and residential appraising. The commercial market, I'll be honest with you, it's kind of depressed right now. And it happened like over the past month. And a good way that I can tell when the markets are changing or activity is changing or whatever is the amount of inquiries that we get from commercial lenders primarily. Calling my firm, Al, we need a bid on a hotel, we need a bid on a restaurant, we need a bid on an apartment complex or whatever. That has really softened over the past probably couple of weeks since everything kind of came to a head. And we're also seeing it locally. There's a big apartment complex that's been going gangbusters about 1 mile from where I live. Multi-unit a townhouse and an apartment complex. They were striving to complete by the end of May. All of a sudden, it's slowed down a little bit because, number one, I think they're losing some of the workers possibly. But secondly, they're probably wondering, okay, what is the rush? What's going to happen as soon as we finish? Because we got 500 units that we have to fill up.
Yeah.
So that is the part that at least temporarily, the commercial part, I think people are just kind of holding back a little bit, just not sure what's
Mm-hmm.
going to be happening. The residential part, however, for appraising, oh my God, it's like on fire. It's
Really?
unreal. Well, it is. Not the purchase component, although there still are purchases going on and there's still very limited supply,
Mm-hmm.
which makes it still, it's still a seller's market in that regard.
Wow. Okay.
However, people are seeing the low interest rates and still wanting to refinance. And here's still a
Wow.
really good opportunity for that to occur before whatever happens to them on an individual or
Sure.
professional basis. They still will be able to qualify and get a lower interest rate and lower, hopefully, mortgage. And so that component part of it has really, it's actually going up, the refinancing part of it. But what's really interesting too is how the appraising part of it. One thing that I found out for the first time in my life, April, I found out I'm essential. I'm an essential guy. I'm an essential worker. At least
We
my
knew you were,
profession.
Al.
I'm
We knew
essential.
it.
I was so happy to hear that. But now I'm essential. I'm so happy about that.
You
But we are
matter,
the
Al.
real
You
estate.
matter.
But in general, the real estate industry is essential, and it is, along with a number of different other ones. And so, consequently, they're looking at us to kind of lead the way in terms of continuing what we're doing. The appraising part of it is very unique because with this coronavirus thing, I think a lot of people are hesitant about going into a commercial building, going
Sure.
into a home, and not just us going into it, but the people having the appraiser come in.
Sure.
It's just the unknown thing, and so it's kind of screwy. But and you had asked me, has this spurred any additional work or whatever? Well, it has actually. Now, Fannie Mae and HUD have come out with alternatives for doing an appraisal, and this is unbelievable.
Wow.
Actually, they're calling it a desktop appraisal, and a
Mm.
desktop appraisal is a traditional appraisal we would do, but we get our information from any source that we can get. We can go to the county, we can go to the city, we can
Mm-hmm.
go to the real estate agent. It doesn't really matter. As a matter of fact, one of our prime sources will be to contact the homeowner and have the homeowner, we'll interview the homeowner about their property, how long they've owned it, the improvements they've made, but also go to a point like, hey, can you do me a favor? Go around your house, take photos, do a video, and send it to me. So I'll be sitting at my desk and doing an appraisal based upon information that's being provided by others without me even actually going physically out to the property.
Wow.
So it's like a new element out of nowhere. And it's, oh my God, my primary contact for that, just we had a conversation yesterday, and there's several appraisers that are very hesitant about
Mm-hmm.
going into property. So it's kind of, but they're also hesitant about doing an appraisal like that, because
Yeah.
how can you do an appraisal without physically going through it and physically seeing what it looks like on the inside and the outside in the neighborhood? So it's a new arena that we're dealing with, and it's an unknown thing. But I got to tell you, I like it. It's a lot easier. I can be at my lake place doing an appraisal, and just
Yeah.
getting information from others. So
So,
we'll see how it plays out.
so Al, wow, there's so many things I want to thank you for that. There's so many things I want to ask you about that. I want to go back to the commercial market here in a second, but I want to ask you, as far as doing the desktop appraisals, couple of things. One is, are you guys being afforded any protection in your evaluation, considering you can't physically inspect it?
Well, that's what we're putting what's referred to as an extraordinary assumption at
Okay.
the end of each report,
That's the addendum you're talking
identifying
about.
that, yeah, we just don't know because
Okay.
we're going through an unknown period. Maybe this will only last 2 additional weeks. And that would be a
Mm,
beautiful day if that happens, or maybe a month or two. Who knows what it's going to be, but it could be very quickly. And I'm anticipating it's going to be quicker than longer type of thing. And so
wow.
if you just have that quicker type thing, it's not going to have that long-term impact. And
Yeah.
we'll be able to ramp up very quickly again. So
Sure.
it's just we're qualifying our report in the degree that no one knows.
Hmm.
Like you said, we don't have a crystal ball. No one does.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
So a couple of things I want to just highlight in that, and then I want to ask you about the commercial market. One is that for those listening right now, we can only see a few of you guys. I see Christina's there. I see Eric Miller. Good. I really wanted you to hear this, Eric. Eric is a real estate investor that I work with. He's a client and a friend, and he's been pushing into the commercial market. So the second we started talking about commercial, I'm like, Eric, are you listening right now, Eric? Go. I know you are. And I see Christopher, also a client and a friend, and Anne, and it says 6 others we can't see. So thank you so much for dialing in. My apologies that we can't actually see who all is watching, but if you have a question, drop it in the comments or send us a private message. A couple things I want to highlight in what you just said, Al, that's really important. So for those that are listening, 1, money is still cheap from the bank. Hear that. 2, people are still buying and people are still refinancing. It has not come to a screeching halt. Al's busy. His company is busy right now. So I think we hear a lot of the doom and gloom, and not to minimize it. We definitely need to take our precautions and we need to do our due diligence, but business is still moving ahead. So I really want to highlight that money's still cheap from the bank. There's still options and people are still refinancing. And hats off to, I think you said it was Fannie Mae or Freddie, that pivoted so quickly to move to desktop appraisals. I mean, they're an 800-pound gorilla, and you don't get 800-pound gorillas moving very quick. So I'm impressed that they responded, that they pivoted that fast.
They did. Yes.
Okay.
They did. Absolutely.
Come back to, you said about the commercial market, that you've seen some slowdown, which is indicated by the inquiries and things like that. So that's specific to what's happening today in this last week or two. So that's the pinhole. So if we pan out and say, not specific to this instance, but historically, again, since you've been doing this for a long time, you've had a tremendous experience and education around this. What have you seen when the commercial market softens? Is it, okay, people wait for, and not to put you on the spot, this is all just kind of speculation, but sure, people kind of hesitate for 2 to 4 weeks and then people start jumping in and see the opportunity, or what typically happens historically?
Well, historically, it's just kind of a perception is reality. And that's true with anything. Sure. And as soon as people perceive that, things don't look that bad, they look okay. And then just kind of like what you alluded to, interest rates are not only low for residential, they're historically low for commercial right now. And I'd almost guarantee, because the federal government is so concerned about the economy in the short term and the long term, they're going to do everything they can to motivate the market to get back on and just be on fire again, which it had been prior to this happening in the past couple of months. Yeah. So I would surmise that when we do get through this, sooner than later, you're going to see a lot of incentives for people put out by the government that it's going to make it very much more affordable for the small business owner as well as the large business owner. And I'm a small guy in a big field, but I'm looking at that too. I've got 2 meetings with 2 different bankers, and they're going to go through all the options that are currently being afforded. They've contacted me. As a matter of fact, I have a seminar this afternoon that I'll be part of, just seeing what is being offered by the federal government. So the point being, when we do get through this period, it's not just going to be, stagnant. There's going to be incentives to get people back in. And I think it's going to be dramatic.
Yeah. Oh, that's what we need to hear, right, Al? That's absolutely what we need to hear. Because it's easy to think, and we've talked about this a few times on Pivotme Live, is that it's easy to think that, to only see this, to only see COVID-19. But this is just a chapter in our book. This is not the whole book. So recognize there's other chapters that happen after that. Like, this is substantial, but there's more chapters, and you can still push into markets. You can still expand your portfolio. There's going to be options for you. So we talked about industry specific things, Al. So let's talk about your business in general. Did you have office staff that are now remote? I know that you were in an office. What does that look like for your team?
Well, this is where I will give kudos to you, April. I was part of the business mastermind group a little over a year ago, I believe, and with another 4 or 5 people that were just on fire like I was, and but you made us on fire. Oh my God! Every day when we meet in our group, we would. I still have not forgot, as part of that, how you get us revved up, because it's a big thing. If you're motivated, if you're on fire, you're prone to be really receptive and participating and all that, and so that was really good. But as part of that group, I formulated a couple long-term goals that I I put into effect. At the time when I was with the group, I was struggling as a company. There had been some transitions that I had to work through, but I came to the conclusion while I was in the group, and I know you're going to know what I say. My decision was to simplify everything about my company and about my personal life. And I've done exceptionally well with the business part of it. I still got to work on the personal part of it. But
that didn't get squared away yet, huh?
Yeah, no, but
it's a work in progress.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, at one time I had 25 employees working for my firm. And although we were profitable, we were not profitable enough. And I got to the point like, why am I killing myself to accomplish this? And to me, the biggest challenge, I think, is having very competent personnel that work for the firm. It's not saying I didn't have competent people, because we did. It's just that it was not a comfort level for me. So my decision to simplify was to really to minimize the number of employees and to use contractors, primarily commercial contractors for commercial work. And these commercial contractors are people that are established, have been in the industry for 10 plus years, that are good commercial appraisers that I can
they don't
count
need
on,
managing.
that they're reliable. They don't need managing.
Yep.
It's like I don't have to be there every day because I'm not good at that. I request somebody to do something and I expect them to do it. And then I'm not going to look over their shoulder. But that wasn't necessarily the case. So what I've done, I've minimized the number of employees. I've put more contractors in place. And not only is my life a lot better because of it, never been as profitable as I've been right now.
Oh, Al, that's
so
fantastic.
It worked, and it's unbelievable. And in my industry, it's perfect too with the technology that's come to the forefront that allows me to do things that I couldn't have done 5 or 10 years ago. Specifically, the cloud environment and being able to work remotely, not having to be in an office. Although I own an office building, we don't have to be there. There's no purpose to even being there. I'm at home right now talking to you.
Yeah.
So what I've done, I've looked at my entire company. I've immersed myself into things that I never wanted to get into, but I did at your suggestion, by the way. And I put myself into areas that I was very uncomfortable, like the accounting part of it and stuff like that.
I remember those
but I learned
conversations.
about my firm. And I made changes, and I come around it like, all of a sudden, even though we're in a downturn right now, everything's looking good. Everything's still looking good.
Because you were prepared. I love this, Al, and I love seeing the aftermath of our conversations. I remember the switching people to contractors instead of W. It's a joy for me as a business advisor to hear the aftermath of what happened. And I also think I heard aggressive head nods from a few clients that are watching right now. It's fantastic to hear that sometimes getting bigger in our business is not the answer. We tend to think it, right? More employees, more revenue. Couple of things to consider about that. More employees can be more people and issues to manage, because managing staff issues is often our biggest nightmare. It's not necessarily product fit in the marketplace and the customers. A lot of times it's managing staff issues. And I don't mean that in a negative sense, but if you're a business owner, you were probably nodding your head right now. The other thing is, it's not about the revenue, because revenue is for show, profits for dough. So people will say, well, I run a $10 million business. Well, how much do you keep? Because $10 million doesn't mean anything if, you only get to keep, 1% of that. So I love that you've changed some things and your profit has gone up, and it sounds like your quality of life is a lot better too.
Yes, dramatically. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And you embrace technology. And it sounds like you embraced it before it was needed, which right now it's needed. Just really using, like you're saying, using cloud technology, using things like Zoom and all these things that maybe were not at the forefront of your industry a couple of years ago. It seems like you wrapped your arms around it, and in time for you to weather this storm better, because you're already prepared to be on a digital platform. So what?
Well, absolutely. And my industry, I was just going to say, I mean, appraising is a commodity. It's looked upon as being, all the appraisers, after they've reached a certain level, have the same level of competency. And it really got down to timing and fee as to whether we get an assignment or not get an assignment. So you have to differentiate. And so the differentiation part that I took it upon myself with my firm, and we're still working through it, have not finished it yet, but it's a big thing, is the timing component of it, whether it's commercial primarily, but also residential. If the typical commercial report takes 3 weeks to complete, and we can do it in 10 days to 2 weeks, that sets us apart dramatically.
Sure.
And even though our fees may be a little bit higher, they know that they can get a report back in a shorter period of time. Not only a report that they get back, but a report that's equal to or way better than what's being put up by others. So that's been my goal, still working through it, but the technology has really helped us to achieve that as we're going forward.
Yeah, I do remember your reporting process was second to none, Al. So I imagine that's really serving you right now. So what hurdles are you guys facing in your business, and how are you getting over that? Whether that's technology hurdles or just even staff is a little unsure, and so we've got to be, attentive to them. I mean, what hurdles are you facing?
Well, the hurdles, I'm not seeing so much hurdles as really getting people in place to do specific things that need to be done. Being a sole owner of this business, my biggest challenge, April, actually is moving forward to what do I do with this? When I decide to not work as much as I had been working, it's very difficult to sell a business like this, a small business. I mean, without the owner being involved in it directly. Yeah. And so I've kind of worked through that. But believe it or not, my 16-year-old daughter has expressed an interest in getting involved in appraising. She's very bright, very smart. And she sees that there can be a huge benefit for her too. Sure. So what I'm doing is kind of integrating her in at a lesser degree, but also bringing other people in that can help me as an outsourcing type of a company to provide things that I can't do internally. So there's no really challenges. I'm working through everything that I need to have done. It's more market oriented at this point. And when it turns around, we're going to be prepared for it. Yeah.
Have you seen, glad to hear that the hurdles have been minimal, and excited that your daughter expressed interest. TAG might end up being a family business.
Yes, that would be good.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. So that
would be a good thing.
Have you had to adjust expectations with your staff? I know that you moved largely to the contractor model in relation to, this has come up on a few calls of people are at home with kiddos, manage, okay, I've pushed out timelines on when something is, or you're getting reports at 12 o'clock at night instead of 5 p.m. Have you had to adjust expectations with your staff?
Well, a little bit, resulting from what's happening right now. I mean, like I mentioned, there, some people are rightfully so, are a little apprehensive about going out, inspecting and stuff like that. And I can appreciate that and understand that. And I think the lenders are understanding it too. They're being, all of a sudden, it's like, okay, if you're going to be a day or two late, they understand what's happening. As a matter of fact, they're almost gleeful and happy that we're able even to achieve it, because in many cases, people are just hunkering back and not even going out their door. So yeah, that's pretty much the way it is right now.
Yeah, we've definitely seen an adjustment both here at Maven and the Pivotme team, and also a lot of the Pivotme live interviews that we're doing across the board, across industries of, okay, we have to adjust. And a lot of the companies had like a 9 a.m. huddle for their team, and they're still doing it, but they said it just looks different because people are doing the huddle with like a kid on their lap or with, the dog running around in the background. And one thing that I've said is I think this process is definitely humanizing us. Because in the business place, we usually put our best foot forward, and we have a very, put together front that we project, right? We speak a certain way and we conduct ourselves a certain way. And you suddenly start seeing everyone's backstory, right? You see someone making dinner in the back. I was doing an interview yesterday, and I could see their partner preparing dinner in the back. And I thought, well, that's something I've never seen, because I've talked to this person, 100 times, and I've never seen their partner making dinner in the background, but it humanizes us, right? It reminds us of our commonalities. Yeah, no, that's
Absolutely.
amazing. So
Absolutely.
talk to us about the opportunities that exist. So whether that's opportunities for you in your business, one of our guests, Frank Clark, had said, "Hey, what's my competitive advantage in this market?" So whether that's again opportunities for you in your business or opportunities for buyers and sellers in the marketplace, what opportunities?
Yeah, for me in particular, one major opportunity I believe, and again, it's because of the technology that's currently available to us, but also the information that's available to us
Mm-hmm.
by government, local, cities and counties and things of that nature. We're once at one time where we were kind of locked into a certain area because you didn't have the information. Now, I thought about opening a branch in a different part of the country. I thought about Florida, I'll be honest with you, living half the year in Florida and the other half in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to come back and forth between Florida and Minnesota. Well, the thing is, I could have my staff in Minnesota do all the preparatory work for a property in Florida, whether it's commercial or residential, even though they're not there. They're going to
Mm-hmm.
do all the stuff that they would do in Minnesota
Mm-hmm.
that they can also do in Florida. So it's a preparation work that and the availability and the technology has allowed my business in particular to expand wherever I want to expand to. And
Mm-hmm.
again, like I said, with my professional, I'm not trying to be a big thing or anything, but it's true. With my credentials, I can pretty much go wherever I want to go, even
Mm-hmm.
out of the country. It doesn't matter. But the technology has really afforded me the opportunity of doing that, and the availability of information that didn't used to be readily available like it is today.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Um, yeah, it's never ideal, but never has there been a better time for a pandemic because of our connectivity, right?
Right.
The cloud, the digital platforms, all the
That's
tools.
right.
We definitely are well prepared digitally for this. I mean, there's strains and bandwidth issues, and some
Sure.
platforms have crashed and things like that, but they come back up. So we are definitely staying connected through that, both business wise and otherwise and socially. So let's talk about how you're showing up right now. So again, you and I know each other really well, and we know how
Hmm.
important mindset is, and managing our mindset, especially in a time like this. We have to be very intentional about how we're showing up as a leader and for our staff and for our family. I know that you have kiddos, they're a little bit older, but you've got to be intentional on how you're showing up for those people. Talk to us about, are you thinking about, hey, am I demonstrating courage, or just am I reminding people that it's okay? Like what does that look like for you?
Well, first off, the fact that I found out I was an essential person really did it did help out. I'll be honest with you, and the fact that I knew I would still have work if I wanted to have work. So that
Mm-hmm.
alone is a comfort level. I can imagine people that didn't have that categorization would have more of a challenging type of a thing. And so,
Sure.
but it still is not suggesting that there aren't limitations. And I mentioned how the commercial work has really gone flat. Well, residential has gone bonkers for the most part. So I'm just
Mm-hmm.
kind of like you're talking about pivoting. I'm pivoting from the commercial area where my company primarily is,
Mm-hmm.
now going to the residential and taking advantage of it where it is currently right now. So and trying to be. There was one question you put out, like, what am I doing to aid others, or to recommend, just doing something positive that will benefit others in this kind of an environment. I'm not thinking to myself, I'm not really doing a damn thing. I'll be honest with you. So, but today I'm taking my dog Charlie for a walk. We back up to a nature area. It's trails along the nature area and stuff like that. And I'm taking him for a walk. And somebody had taken the initiative to write in chalk on the blacktopping a pathway little sayings. And it looked like a woman because it was very flowery and stuff like that. But it was things like enjoy life. This is brief. Things that are very positive. And as soon as I read it, I felt better. It was unbelievable. So somebody had a very creative way to put something out on a pathway that isn't just going to affect me and my dog Charlie, anyone that's walking along there or biking or whatever. So I guess my point being, it kind of woke me up that you can do something very simple like
Mm.
that and make a difference in other people's lives.
Wow. That's so good. Al, it's funny that you mentioned that because we've been doing that. Me and the girls have been doing that. So we went around to all their friends' houses that they go to school with, and we wrote on their sidewalk.
That is cool.
And it was
That is so cool.
and then we actually went to their school and we wrote on the outside. And as I'm watching like our 6-year-old write in chalk on the school, I thought, am I teaching her like how to vandalize? I was a little concerned about that. I was like, honey, wrap it up. Let's just get in the car. So hopefully they won't pursue, because I know there's video cameras on the premise, and they're like, is that April Garcia? I'm pretty sure that's April Garcia vandalizing our school. I'm like, it's with hearts and flowers. Come on. But but what a simple, to your point, what a simple way to just brighten someone's day, and people are we're up in our head and we're absorbed in our own thoughts and our own reality. And when you see something so simple as a note, and in one of my later masterminds, there's a gal, Rachel, she's been amazing through this, and she's very, very isolated. So she's way up in the north, kind of Montreal area, but farther north, Canada. And she lives in a community with a lot of elderly people. And I think they're in condos, and they're very restricted. They're very isolated. They've been really hard hit. And I love this. She wrote cards to all of them and slid them under their doors, just saying, if you need anything. She's one of the few, younger people that live there. And she slid cards under all of their doors. And she's telling us yesterday, she's telling the mastermind group about how, now she's in regular communication with this 93-year-old woman that was apparently her neighbor. And she's like, oh, you just don't know how much that means to me that you reached out. And there was another guy in his late 70s that needed a car. And she's like, well, we're not using ours. And she gave this guy her car so he could get in for groceries. And he's like, well, then I'll go to the store for you and pick up groceries. And just, I mean, talk about, I've said earlier that someone had shared with me, he's completely right, that in times of celebration and in times of sorrow is when real relationships are formed. And there are people right now, your business is doing well. You're an essential business and you're faring well, and that's fantastic. It's such a good reminder that there are people right now that are really struggling and are in their moments of sorrow. And this is when they need that message with sidewalk chalk. This is when they need a note slipped under the door, or a text from you, or a video chat, or someone. We're all experiencing this in different ways. And there might be someone who's so incredibly isolated, or whose family has really been hard hit. And just such a simple gesture like that can mean everything to them.
Cool. Good for you for doing that, because it made a big impression on me. I thought, oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Very good.
It's been good. In fact,
that's really cool.
Yeah. It's a sidewalk chalk, right?
That's
it's
exactly
so
what it is. Yes.
Yeah, it's so simple. Of course, the day we did it, so we live in Nevada, right? It's the desert. It never rains here. The day we do it, it rains. I'm like texting all the parents, send your kids out. See it before. Yeah. So I don't know. Mother Nature had another idea, but
that's cute.
So Al, talk to us about, I want to be cognizant of our time, because I think we talked about 30 minutes and here we are, but talk to us about some of the habits that you're doing right now. Let's make this 2 parts. So the things that you're intentional about right now. So whether that's a morning routine or a walk with Charlie, and also the things that you're staying away from right now.
Yeah. I tend to get away from a routine and when I get away from this routine that I've had, I tend to notice that I'm not as on fire. Like, I'd like to be on fire like you all the time, April. I mean, honest to God. And the way to be that for me, I do a number of things. And number one, I do take a walk or I bike for at least a half an hour every day. It's good that I have a dog. I'm able to do that. And I work out, 3-4 times per week. It's really interesting because, and I would just kind of a side note here. There's this Japanese doctor that at age 100, wrote a book on how to live to be 100 years old. Mm-hmm. And he lived to be 105 years old and then died, still working 12 hours per day. But he suggested things like, number one, just have fun. Have fun. Realize, have fun and do something you really enjoy, and never quit your business. Never leave a career type thing. So anyway, that's kind of an aside, but that's what I believe in. So that I do meditation. I'll be honest with you. I'd gotten away from that. I think meditation is huge. I do TM, and I try to do it at least once per day. And
Mm-hmm.
probably a big thing that I do, and I'd gotten away from, but I'm back into it again. And it's a friend of mine and a business consultant, Michael Bailey. He's actually out of Utah. This guy is just phenomenal. But he got me into journaling.
Mm.
Journaling has just been huge for me
Oh yeah.
because it's a platform to put on paper anything that I'm struggling with or whatever. And not only that, things that are positive that have happened to me in a good manner during the course of the day or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
that I can refer back to. So I've got back into that. And so those are the primary things, and just kind of keeping a positive mental attitude, and just
Mm-hmm.
kind of being on fire, being active, and all of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything that you're keeping away from? Like we talked about your yes list. What's on your no list right now?
Keeping away from, and it's something that, most people will think I'm very positive, and this is something I should probably just keep away from because it's not a good thing, it's I should just not even get on there. But it's on Facebook, and this current political climate,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I get involved in conversations. After I get involved, I wish I hadn't. Simple as that. Or I wish I would have left it in a very positive manner instead of not so positive. So that is probably the singular thing, is just maintaining a positive mental attitude in any
Mm-hmm.
environment. Not only what I'm writing down, but it's what I'm saying and how I'm acting,
Sure.
and all of those things.
Yeah. And the thing is some people, especially people who, if, we haven't spent time studying this, and you and I have, but we don't realize that when we get on and we read something, if we watch something, it influences us. Your social circle influences you. The people that you spend your time with influence you. The things that you read influence you. So be very careful what you're allowing to influence you right now, because it's hard. Your brain doesn't always discern fact or fiction. It just sees, oh, I saw this, and this is what's happening. This is what's happening everywhere. And we've got to be so careful. I always say, mind your mind. Be careful about where your mind is going, and be careful of the things that you're feeding it, because it then becomes your reality. And so if we're on and we're reading articles and we're like, oh, I'm just going to see what this is, you'll kind of forget that, like, oh, I just read that such and such happened. It was like, where did I even see that? Was that real? So just being very aware of what you're allowing in, because you do get influenced. Even if that's not your intention, even if you just want to be informed on what someone is saying, it's going to influence you. And we've got to be so careful about what's influencing us. Yesterday I had a chat with also a client yesterday, and she was talking about how she's like, I'm not watching the news anymore. She said, I'm practicing meditation. I am, doing a variety of things. Like I'll listen to podcasts. I'm listening to a lot of books on tape. And she's like, and I'm leading my team and focused on my business, and I'm working out more than ever. But she's like, I've just cut out that component of it, because again, focusing on the things that we can influence and we have control over. She's like, as long as I'm doing my due diligence, I don't want to stick my head in the sand and pretend like things aren't happening. But as long as I'm doing my due diligence, I just need to stick with what's in my circle of influence, my circle of control. And anything outside of that is just going to drain me.
That's exactly right. Absolutely. We're on
Yeah.
the same page with that for sure. No
That
doubt
doesn't
about it.
surprise me, Al. So Al, and we had a couple other people hop on. I want to say thanks, Teresa, for hopping on, and Robin for hopping on. And unfortunately, Facebook has this annoying habit of just saying, and 5 other people got on. So to whoever those 5 other people are, by all means, if you have questions, either drop them in the comments or send us a separate comment. We're happy to answer. Real quick, I'll wrap up with 2 questions, but I do want to say that afterwards, the Pivot Me Live will be put on our pivot-me.com website. We have a new landing page that is specifically to COVID-19 interviews with business owners. We'll be sure to include that too. And then this on the back end, the audio will become a proper Pivot Me podcast through all the usual channels. In closing, just a couple of more things, Al. What would you say, what piece of advice would you give, or words of encouragement would you give to other business owners that are listening right now?
Well, I thought about that. And actually, what I would give as an advice would be what came from my older daughter, Katrina, who's actually she's in Colorado right now, going to the University of Denver. She gave me a gift a couple of years ago that I put on, it's a magnet, I put on to my refrigerator. It's a quote by Winston Churchill. And what it says is, never, ever, ever, ever give up. Don't give up. like right around the corner. It could be something just unbelievable. And don't give up, but put yourself in spots where you're maybe not as comfortable as you might want to be. Like for me, this is not the most comfortable thing. I'll be honest with you, but I did it because I knew, number one, you were going to be the one leading this. So, but I knew there'd be a benefit to it. So my advice would be just things will get better, and it could be short, and just know that there's something better out there waiting for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what, just to tag up on that, something that you said earlier, I just want to bring those two statements together. You were saying, hey, I'm pivoting my business away from commercial right now. I'm focusing on residential. For those that are out there that are struggling, the way that we did business before, it might need to look different. So what I've seen sometimes is people go, okay, well, business came in through the store and it slowed down, and now I'm going to double my efforts on the business that's coming through the store. Sometimes that's not the answer. The answer is look for the pivot. Like, okay, you can't just double down your efforts on what worked 3 weeks ago because the game has changed. We're playing a different game right now. And that doesn't mean just sit and wait it out. We can't do that. But we have to look for how we can pivot. Don't throw in the towel. Look for another way to do that. Look for a window that opened. The door's closed. Look for the window open because as the saying goes, what got you here won't get you there. So we've got to, whether that's drop a new tool in your tool belt or just get creative or take a look at like what Al did and say, okay, commercial's a little slow. That's okay. We're going to double our efforts in the residential side, and that's booming. If he would have just doubled his efforts in the commercial space, he may have not enjoyed the fruits that he is right now. So be creative about where you're getting your revenue streams. Be creative about how you're showing up for your clients, because even in this season, especially in this season, one of our other interviews, Jackie had said, communicate now, talk now, because everybody's listening. So you can still solve a problem for people right now. It just might be a slightly different problem than it was 3 weeks ago. And that's okay. So just like Al pivoted, where's the pivot in your business? But I love the never, never, never give up. That's it's exactly what we need to hear right now, Al.
Okay.
So Al, you've
Absolutely.
given us some great information, and it's just fascinating what you shared about the industry specific. How do we support you, Al? What can we do for you?
Well, that's too leading. I had a couple things come right to mind, and you know me. So
I do.
I'm not going to say.
Don't describe it here, Al.
I'm not going to go in that direction. No, I just think I loved what you said about the attitude thing, about being positive, doing like what you did with your kids, going out doing the chalk type thing, something very simple. I mean, just being kind to other people. You know what I'm saying? And forget about the political stuff right now, and just kind of focus on where you really want to be at individually and as a family and all that stuff. So if you're asking me what do I like, I would just like, people shouldn't be, just be nicer, be kinder to each other. Do little simple things like what you're doing. It'd be really cool.
So Al, have you decided, I'm going to put you on the spot. Have you decided what you're going to do? So the sidewalk chalk inspired you. What is Al? Is Al getting some sidewalk chalk? What are you doing?
Well, I like what you said about the little note type thing.
Yeah.
And I just kind of thought about just sending out either email note or to mail out a note. When you get something in the regular mail, you don't get much very often. You get a little note with a quick note and you put something very positive on it. People don't forget that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think I might do something like that.
I think that's amazing. And people have dropped off gifts at our door. And I'll say it because Eric has sent me a message that he actually wanted you to sing me happy birthday. You do not have to sing me happy birthday, but technically it is my birthday. And I've gotten these little notes on our door. And
today it is?
Yeah, today it is.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it is.
So. You don't want to hear me sing happy birthday. But happy birthday, April. That's beautiful. Good for you. God bless you. That's great.
Thank you, Al. Thank you, Al. But I've gotten, thank you for that. I have gotten a couple little notes, and a friend, Janelle, had, she knows how to get straight to my heart. She left me baked goods yesterday, which,
cool.
Which was so great. She's like, this is for your birthday. And then she left a project for our kids. Just just an incredibly kind and thoughtful person. But, you know, and I know my parents want to stop by and sing me happy birthday at some point at a safe distance from a car. And it's, you know, it's so cool to see how people are getting creative and still showing up. And, you know, a friend had said, hey, can we bring something by, or we'll play you some music or something? And people are just getting really, really creative. And if we look for it, we can feel more love and supported than ever. So this can be isolated, but if we choose to focus on the creative part, I mean, we can really pour into each other right now. We can really
Absolutely.
connect on our human level, and not just business, or not just the relationship we had, or we can show up as more compassionate leaders and just more compassionate people. And I love what you said about being patient and kind to people. If we get nothing else out of this, I think that would be a huge benefit.
Cool. Very cool.
Thanks, Al. So where do we find you? So we're going to drop your links in. Is
Sure.
that the best place to find you, is through the TAG website?
Sure, that'd be fine. Or if you need to, if somebody did want to email me, you could give out my email address. That would be fine too. And
that would be amazing.
It's akline@tagmn.com. But either way, that's fine.
We do have one quick question.
Sure.
Christopher just asked, in the real estate industry, for a new broker in the market, where would you suggest my focus be?
In the real estate market, starting out.
Yeah, he just switched over about a month ago, Christopher. You're going to do amazing because of who you are, but it's a relevant question right now.
Yeah, a friend of mine just got into the real estate market a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
and she went to work for Remax, and she just put on Facebook a couple days ago, she was named Rookie of the Year in the industry. And the way she did it is just, I mean, she's just a very upbeat, positive. She's like you. I mean, always positive, upbeat.
I like her already.
Yeah, absolutely. And then she just would do whatever it would take. And she knew that she put a lot of hard work into it.
Mm-hmm.
So hard work and a positive optimism, and getting with a good broker, I would think, would be huge. You know, somebody that can mentor you.
Mm-hmm.
And just be prepared, because it will open up again, you know, and hopefully it'll be sooner than later. It'll just be on fire again.
Yeah, he aligned. So Christopher is in Puerto Rico. We work together as well. And so one of the things he did is he aligned with a brokerage firm that was top notch in Puerto Rico, that he aligned with the best of the best, which was
cool.
A fantastic move. The other thing is, you were saying about hard work and hustle, and also how you're showing up. He's an incredibly positive person. And so Chris, I know you're listening right now. One of the things that you're going to offer the clients that you work with is your upbeat, your calming presence. There is a comfort in talking and working with Christopher that not all agents can provide. You're going to get the expertise from the brokerage that you aligned with, right? They know the market very, very well. And so you can lean on their expertise for the industry specific knowledge. But people are going to want to work with you because of the way you make people feel. And I really want to emphasize that you've made a big change recently, but man, the way you're going to make people feel is going to be priceless right now. So Chris, Keep at it. And as Al says, well, originally Winston Churchill, but now Al has said, you heard it first here, people, by the guy that coined the phrase, what the Al. That's another story. When Don and Mike hear this, they're going to have a good laugh. What the Al. But thank you, Al, so much for all the information.
You.
This has been amazing.
It was an honor. It was really fun. Thank you so much, April. You're the best.
Thank you. I'm going to go off of live. Let's just confirm that we are officially off.